Yay.
Hey, hi, welcome. Welcome to Illuminated Archetype. This is the first episode session in the series. We're going to see how this goes, see if you guys like it. So, Bella and I used to do this in 2021 or 2020, might have been 2020. We did it for a while. And we thought we'd bring it back. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to do some chart readings, chart interpretations today, but we're going to focus on one archetype in particular. And so for these sessions, we focus on the archetype that's either in transit or has just been in transit. And so today we're going to look at a chart through the lens of the feminine, the second gene key, and through the lens of the translator, 23rd gene key. And that's what we're going to do. We generally weave. So we'll have human design and gene keys up. And we probably won't stay in just that gate, that gene key. We'll bring in other places of the chart because it matters, whatever goes together and how a certain gate impacts and influences another gate, whether it's hanging or a channel or in a defined center or undefined center, what circuitry, what other things are defined that are in that circuitry. So we'll unpack that with you today. So we've got two readings for today, one of them with the 2, one of them with the 23. If you would like to book a spot for today inside of the chat, there is a way for you to pay and then email us your charts, and we can do that at the end. We're also going to pick one person today to look at their chart. You have to have the 2 or the 23 in your chart in order to get a reading today. So we'll pick one of y'all after we do the paid readings, and the readings are $64 if like normally, and then it's $44 if you are a active paying member in the inner circle. Some of you do have a trial run of the inner circle. Please don't use the code for that. Use the $64 full price reading because you're not in the inner circle quite yet. But we hope and look forward to you joining us. So if you're interested, there's a link for that for you to sign up. But yeah, anything you want to say before we get started, Bella?
No, I didn't have time to read your messages, but I can feel something percolating from that.
Oh,
So
yeah,
I'll get back to that after. And now just be present with the geometry of the charts that we have for today.
great.
And it's always an honor, I feel, to look at charts and to have those of you that trust us that much to give us your geometry in your life. And it's true that, we pull up things, and you kind of have to be ready to hear what's there in order to say yes to that, and in order to even invest in that. So those of you that are going to be looked at today, we are also going to, if you're live with us, we're going to give you the opportunity to at least be able to speak if you want to. If you don't want to just be in the chat, we allow to speak, and we can even promote you to panelists if you want to. But we won't do that if you don't want to do that. But it's important for us that when we look at the chart, that there is also a voice if the person wants to say something and ask something, that we can have that interaction.
Mm-hmm. I know that Lisa's here. Lisa's going to be the representative for the 23. But Jen, there was a confusion on the time of this, so she can't attend this one. So I don't think she's going to be here live, so she will just watch the replay. For those of you that got the email earlier, Bella and I had decided to make this at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. But I guess I didn't change the Zoom because it sent out a reminder for you all saying that it was at 11 Pacific. So I changed that. Thank you, Michael, for letting me know that you got an email and it was the incorrect time. I corrected the time. This is when we're meeting. You all are here. Thanks for finding it. I'm glad you're here. And for those of you that are joining us on YouTube, hi, welcome. We will look at your comments in time. We'd love to still interact with you. So if you want to write anything in the comments, you can. Know that you can register for this. and be in the webinar with us to comment and hopefully win chart reading as well. So that's the perks of being inside of the webinar, is you get to chat. We see your questions, we see your chat, and you might get the opportunity to get a free reading. So hello. Oh, and hello, Brian from Ithaca. I know that Michael Peterson, he just moved to, I don't know if it was Ithaca, it might be Ithaca, but definitely around that place in New York. So you have a friend. He's the one who gave me the 23. Oh, I'll thank Michael. Thank you for being here, Brian. With a U, right? Brian. With the smiley face U. Okay. Anyways, I'll stop interacting with the chat and let's get some charts up. Oh my gosh, 23 participants inside here again, just like yesterday. I love that the 23 is so active right now. Hopefully we can get some more people in the webinar though too. We're going to start with Lisa because it is her birthday today. So let's bring this chart up.
Ashley, do you want me to record so that it looks better or no?
Sure. I wonder why it's not letting me do. Oh, here we go. Just a moment. Get acquainted with our friend. I don't know why I'm being impatient. I'm like clicking all the buttons and my computer's like, I'm going slow. So
are we starting with 23? Aren't we starting with the 2 that came first in the wheel?
No, we're gonna start with 23 because there's 23 people inside.
Well, I don't have her intake form, but maybe there wasn't one, which is not gonna make me happy because she didn't look through the calendar.
Remember that it's not as long as the other ones. So your Scorpio can't go super deep with these ones. It doesn't give all the crazy things that our regular intake forms have.
Well, maybe, Lisa, if you're here, right? Is there anything we should know? I mean, we're going to illuminate the 23.1, but is there anything that you feel that you want to put in the chat? You can as we start. If there's anything you want to have specifically illuminated, other than just you want to know more about your life's work, you can. I like to know everything when I go into chart, even if it's a 5 minutes reading, but that's me.
Yeah, let us know. Okay, so it is Lisa's birthday today, so happy birthday to you. She's a 1-3 emotional generator. She's a right angle cross of explanation too. This is going to be an illuminated archetype reading for the translator. So you can see that, like Bella said, the translator is in her life's work. That means that it was activated by the sun. The conscious sun was in gate 23 when she was born. And so she is a Taurus sun and an Aries moon. And I don't know what your ascendant is, but we have an astrology chart and I have that pulled up if we want to go that route. But I guess to give an overview, because she has the 23 as her life's work, that means her evolution is the programming partner. And the 2343 are special because it's one of the only programming partners that also is the harmonic gate. So then it always makes a channel. And so she has a defined ajna and a defined throat. And she only has the 23 defined in her throat. So that means that expression is always going to take that route through archetype 23, which we call the translator. And to give an overview of the translator is here to simplify. It's bringing in information from the Ajna hub, and it's getting those insights and epiphanies because it's conceptualizing something that has come into the crown center and we're chewing on it. We're figuring out, what does this mean? Once we have that epiphany, we can share it. And it has a knowing. It says, I know, or it says, I don't know. And it can't force its knowing. So because this is a really big part of Lisa's chart, Lisa is going to have this be a really big part of her personality. So this knowing or not knowing, it comes when it comes. The penny drops when the penny drops, and the insight and the knowing can come and be shared. And it's important for also her being a 1-3 for her to have that time in aloneness to investigate, to feel into what is this. And oftentimes 1-3s also need to experiment with things, and they're oftentimes not going to share until they've kind of had a chance to try it out, go through it, and have that self-empowerment, personal empowerment first and foremost before they can teach it, share it. Because traditionally they are personal profiles. They don't really care about sharing it with the other first and foremost. It is for them. It's a personal destiny, meaning what you are translating is for you, what you're explaining is for you, and it does benefit others because you are, in a way, simplifying things. And yeah, that's the overview for now. Anything super significant that you might want to zoom in on, Bella?
Yeah, so this is a very powerful cross. It's a rebellious cross. It's a cross that's going to say things, and that is going to have impact, reverberation in people around you. So when the 23-24 is combined with the 49 and 4 on the other side, you see there is going to be some reactions, or at least some waves, emotional waves that are created. And there can also be intolerance, the fourth gene key, that you're met by. So it takes somebody with courage. And a 1-3 profile, when the first line of that 23 gets beyond the insecurity and comes into the self-empowerment, the 23 is going to be okay. The 23-24, which is also a channel, which is also programming partners, is going to be okay with the possible reactions and the possible intolerance on the other side, because it's part of the experimentation. Mm-hmm. So we have here a defined ego center and a defined emotional center that can possibly also help with that, because when there is definition in the emotional center, it's not this not self of not wanting to rock the boat. No, it's a life that is colorful and full of emotion. And we have the 55-39, so there's going to be a lot of highs, and then sometimes it feels like despair, but the new hope can always come back with that channel. So in a defined ego, to be okay with the other person's reactions. I think, knowing Lisa a little bit, though, that what helps this very powerful cross, other than the self-empowerment and finding that, is that she has 3 of the gates of the cross of the vessel of love, the 10, the 15, and the 25. And it feels way more soft than some of the other 1-3s with this cross, with the 23 as lives work, because sometimes it just feels that they are here for like their own inquiry and their own geeking away on whatever it is that first line of the translator is interested in. So that defined G and the cross of the vessel of love, except one of the gates, the 46, feels like it softens the expression. And then I also feel that the pearl in Taurus in the 27 is softening a little bit of that expression, and it's allowing the 23, which is a Taurus gate, to also tap into more of that embodiment, that Taurus quality. So having your life's work and your pearl in the same zodiac sign can give a bit more of that quality to the whole chart, because the pearl is a lot about expression, and then the life's work is kind of the crown of everything. But then we see, again, looking in the vocation and looking at the culture, that there is a lot of energy there again with the 49 and the 51. So the shock and the awakening, and then that possible revolution and reaction. So there is definitely something in this chart with the 49 both being the radiance and the core wound to look at. And it's a defined emotional center that it sits in. So I feel that also makes it a little bit less confusing to navigate, because it comes from a defined center where there's a consistency. However, it might be for you, Lisa, that you feel more of that individual process with the liberation and the spirit. So I feel a little bit more, also knowing you a little bit, that it is almost more that you prefer to go into the individual circuitry with a 23 as your life's work, with a 43 as the evolution, and which is individual circuitry, and then colored by the liberation of spirit with the 39 to 55. And I believe that you're bringing in the liberation and the freedom discourse into that insight that you're sharing with the world. And like Ashley said, as a 1-3, you're doing it for your own self-empowerment, but it really, really can impact others. And I think that part of the challenge is if you dare to shine that much, because the 49 would kind of say, no, it's too much of a whirlwind, there's too much reaction here, don't do that, tone it down. Right. And that's really where you would go to the SQ in the 25.3, which is the third seal of the gene keys. That is that innocence, and even to be able to transcend or integrate the shame and continue to explore, continue to spark, continue to be in the fire of your own truth, in the fire of allowing spirit to be liberated.
How does that resonate? And did it spark any questions for you since we have you on, Lisa? Oh, and Brandy, I see your comment. Sent my chart. Thank you for sending your chart to the email too. I'll go through that in a moment. So thank you. Okay, while we wait. Oh, yes, it's a lot to take in. Good thing you get to come back to this. I wanted to speak about that whole taking in. I saw this on the walking the wheel call in the way that I was interpreting you and the way that you were communicating. And I think that you're the type of person that needs a little bit of time to digest and to play around with what you are taking in, because I think that's how you come to that translation. So there's a filtering system that you have where when you're taking it in, you're filtering what's for you, what resonates, what doesn't resonate, and what does resonate comes in, it drops in, and that's where you start to chew on it. That's where you start to make sense of it. And once you make sense of it, you're making sense of it in a very personal way where it's like, what does this mean for me? And then you're able to share it. And when you do share it, that's where people can also have you can have insights and epiphanies for other people, because when you're sharing your personal experience, it might be awakening something in someone else. And so when you're receiving something from another, digesting it and kind of mirroring it back to them, that can also be a really powerful process that you take someone through, where it is about the feedback that's being shared. So Bella's sharing feedback with you, you're taking it in, digesting it, and then hopefully sharing feedback back. So there's like this reciprocity and dance between you and the other. And so it's also super powerful to come in and inquire more, to dig deeper, to see what else is there, so that that first line can get all the details. And once the first line has all the details, then it can make that not assumption, but it can make that statement. And so I think that with your 23, it probably also is recognizing what more needs to drop in for me to feel complete with this. Your moon is also in the 42.6. So there's something about arriving at completion. And I remember on the walking the wheel call, you were one of the last people to speak. So there's something about collecting the information over time until you have something to share. You're not just going to share something. It like has to drop in. So there's no forcedness of your expression. It's just going to come when it comes. And I think that, like Bella said, it's beneficial that you have a defined emotional center, because there's not pressure coming in that way where somebody's wanting something from you, or they're needing, like, or you're feeling an emotional reaction. And so sometimes the things that you may share or say may be catalyzing, may be provoking, may spark some reaction from the other, or maybe something someone's sharing with you is sparking a reaction in you. So when we feel that reaction, or we're sensing that reaction, we go in to digest more. And that's how we're going to have that revolution towards awakening. So we can feel guilt over the fact that I'm having a reaction or they're reacted. And once we get over that core wound of guilt, we get to move into a process where, wow, I'm having a reaction. Let me investigate this. Let me dig deeper into this. And so you get to then dissect this feeling that you're feeling and see, well, what is this emotion wanting to awaken within me? And what does it need? Right? We have the 27, which is all about nourishment, also an altruism. And so if you're having a reaction, best to serve yourself first, to be like, wow, before I continue to add more reaction to this heated conversation, let me pull back and be like, wow, I'm having a reaction. What do I need right now? What's my inner child saying? Where do I feel constriction? Where do I need acceptance? Where am I not feeling accepted? Where are they not feeling accepted? And I think that as you go through the process for yourself, that's where you're going to start to be able to understand and even explain yourself and explain your situation. But when the emotional state comes in the moment, the process has to kind of work its way through before you even can understand what it all means. Right. And that's kind of an individual process that you're having. But when you get to share that emotional conclusion, that's where other people can benefit as well. And I think that you're here to become wise about your own wave. And there's something that is deeply reprogramming and mutating within you. Not only do you have on your body side the 49.3 and the 4.3, that is revolution and understanding. The more and more you understand yourself and your interactions and your reactions, the more you're going to start to transform yourself. Not only that, but you have this 63 channel of mutation where that pulse is in an individual pulse of mutation. So whatever it is you are sharing and bringing out is new, because that is not only an investigator energy, but it's a creator energy. So it's a place maybe people haven't gone before. And that's going to take some time for you to investigate and pull through to then be able to explain. And so that's why the translator is a really amazing and cool archetype, especially in that first line, because what it is you're traversing, what it is you're digesting, what it is you are translating into simple terms probably hasn't been translated before. And it's just going to take a little bit of time. And obviously, it's your process. It's for you first, but other people can benefit, especially those that have that resonance with you. And that's why people probably tell you, like, wow, that was so powerful. That was so impactful, the thing that you shared, because it woke something up in them. And that's who you're here to be, is an awakener, first and foremost for yourself. But then in your interactions with other people, you're showing people where you went, what door you went into, and they get to go too if they want. So yeah, that's how I see the translator kind of working through this process within you.
That's amazing. And what I find is that over the past 2 years, since I've started to trust the 2343 channel, I've become more patient. I don't just give myself away for free with people. It's something that I used to just jump in and give. It's like, or not give, but say the thing that I know is the truth of the thing. And people would be like, you're so blunt. You're so blunt. And now I find that I sit back and people turn to me and ask me what I think. And I'm like, it's not so much about what I think, it's what I feel. Because as I feel into all of this, I used to really hate my voice. And I know that my voice is unique, and I also know that it's powerful. And I also know that I've tried to dumb myself down by saying all the time when I wasn't really sure of myself. And since I've started to understand about the individual circuitry and that I'm here to experience things internally and then relay them out once they actually make sense for me and once they have meaning for me, because if they have meaning for me, they will have meaning for other people. I'm so much clearer. I have so much more clarity in what I share and when I share. I can give you an example. Like, since March, I've not been particularly well, and I was just coming out of a relationship. And because I've been in the States for 4 months, but I knew that when I went to the States, I knew there was something wrong with the relationship. When I came back, the relationship ended, and I was really ill for a few days. And I've been working my way through it. I've been working through a process for me to actually be able to clear it. And when I became clear on that process, then I was able to share it with other people via 3 posts on my Facebook over the past 3 days. Everything seems to come in threes now. There's like the beginning, the middle, and the end. I was talking to a friend today, and I said, it's more like, because we were talking about the gene key 23, it's more like the shadow the gift and the city. I said, that seems to be the way I write at the moment. And I've only realized that today. And when I write from my heart and when I speak from my heart, people really get it. And they're like, oh, that's so resonant. That's so impactful. And a lot of times it can get me down because people don't tell me this. Like they'll be consuming whatever it is that I write or I speak, and they won't say anything. And then I'm like, when that happens, that makes me go further inside myself. And then one day I had this epiphany where I'm like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I don't know who's seeing this. I don't know who's reading it. If it worked for me, it'll be helpful for somebody else. So I don't actually need to know because I'm not looking for a transaction. I'm showing people what my transformation has been. And if there's something in there that can help you in your translation, your transformation, fantastic. And I also know that I'm not for everybody. I used to want to fit in. I used to think that it was because I wanted to belong. I don't want to belong. I am that person who sits on the gate and watches while the horse trainer is in the middle doing all of that. And then when I have something to say, I will say it. Because I don't speak just for the sake of speaking. I used to. And then when I used to do that, people would be like, oh my goodness. Oh God. Enough, enough, enough. And now I only say what I have to say and then I get out. So that's it for now. That's what's coming to me right now. And any other insights on anything that you have, I will happily take. Because Bella, I think it was you the last time you were on a call. I can't remember which one it is because I feel like I've been to so many of these calls the last few weeks. And I think you said you have 23 and you also said you had 39 and you didn't have the patience to wait. And that was an epiphany for me as well. Because if I know what I know, why the hell am I waiting? And now I'm like, okay, Lisa, you have to wait because people aren't always where you are. And then you said that you say it anyway, and if it doesn't resonate, then you'll drop it for now, and then you'll circle back in a few weeks' time or something. And that really, really resonated with me. I laughed when I heard that because I was like, yeah, there's so much that I do know, and I don't say, for whatever reason. But if I can take things and make them deeply personal for me, so I write always in the first person, not you must do this or you feel this. It's like, this is what happened to me. This is what I went through. This is what I do when this happens. Then that the shock and the initiation that can happen seems to be softer with people because it doesn't feel as if I'm pointing my fingers at them. Because sometimes what it is that I have to say will be really shocking and it will ignite something within them. And then they're blaming me. I'm like, but I wasn't talking to you specifically. And so if you're feeling some type of way about it, then you can feel all your feelings. But don't think that I was like in your living room looking in your curtains, seeing what's going on in your house, and that I was making this personal to you. I'm telling you what happened to me. And if it resonates, wonderful. If it doesn't, that's okay too. Yeah. So that's what's coming up for me right now.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And there's so much in it that you said that really validates you're transitioning into living more in the gift frequency and liberating prosperity for yourself in terms of especially releasing the need for recognition? Did it awaken something in you? I want to know it awakened something in you because I'm going to get paid through that recognition. And really, you just recognize that you've unlocked something for yourself. And then it doesn't become transactional, like you said. And people aren't feeling your need for recognition, validation, worthiness. Oh, you're such a great person. Oh, that's an amazing thing that you know this. I want to tell you that you know this. You're like, I already know that I know. I'm just sharing it so that maybe you could know too. And I think that that's the huge thing, is that people don't realize how sensitive everybody is to transactional interactions where somebody's doing something because they want something from you. It feels so much more cleaner when you come to the table and you're like, I'm just sharing this for the sake of sharing it. I don't need anything from you. But it would be a travesty for it to die inside of me and nobody else to get this, because this was really powerful for me. So I'm glad you're doing that. And that's exactly how you liberate prosperity and activate the quantum field here as well, by pulling all this through. That's like literally what you're doing, is writing and creating things and sharing things for the sake of, I know this and I want to share that I know this, and take it or leave it. I'm not attached to whether I'm labeled as a genius or a freak. That's your thing, not my thing.
And sometimes I feel like there should be a recording every time I open my mouth, because half the time I don't even know what I'm saying. And if you ask me what it was that I just said, I can't tell you.
I say that to Bella all the time. I'm like, why the hell did we not record this? I have to like get notes in front of me so that if Bella says something, because I'll ask her, and then whatever spontaneously comes out of her, I'm like, we didn't record this and I didn't write anything down. And then it doesn't come out again. It's like, can we repeat it? No.
Yeah.
That's why don't ask you any questions or Bella any questions if you're not ready for the response that might come through.
Exactly. One of the things I'm thinking about doing is can't decide whether it's going to be a YouTube or a podcast. It'll probably wind up being both, of intuitive conversations where I just speak to people about whatever is coming up for them, and then just take the conversation for like an hour or an hour and a half, take the conversation to wherever it goes and record it. And if it resonates for people, great. If it doesn't, that's great too. However, knowing the conversations I've had like this that haven't actually been recorded, I know that it will resonate for people.
I hope you take initiative on that.
Me too.
Well, it's your birthday, so like, what's the present that you are going to claim?
Well, the present was this session.
Oh.
I've been looking forward to this all day.
Oh. Thank
Well,
you.
I have just a few more things that I wanted to
Yes,
to
please.
point out. So, we say that the archetypes live in hubs, and those centers are the hubs. So that's one way of seeing it when it comes to the archetypes. We can also say that they care about the same things. So when we look at the circuitry, it's that they care about the same things. In your chart, I want to point that out to everybody. There is a lot of individuality. So the 23 is part of the individual circuitry. So it's here to be empowered in itself, very similar, we could say, to the first line. It starts from the individual process, always. Even awakening, the 360 starts from that. So when you have individual circuitry, you can't really fake it. We're going to know if that 23, where it's speaking from, because it comes out. So when it's in the individual circuitry, it is, like Ashley said, for the individual, and it is individual empowerment that can inspire. And when we look at your chart, you have 4 channels that are in that individual circuitry. So you have the 2343, which is what we are focusing on today. You have that 5539 that is somehow becoming part of the message that the translator is bringing to the world. I feel that very much in you, and it makes my 39, my north node and my ascendant, very happy when I feel that in you. You also have the channel of awakening, the 2551, which is individual circuitry. And then you have the very channel of mutation, which is that impatient channel that says, when is it going to happen? When is the pulse going to come? When? So there's definitely an impatience in that. So a very, very, very individual chart. And I feel sometimes too with that, you have the 61. So that's also part of, I think, what Ashley sometimes feels in me with the 23.4 in my Chiron and then the 61 in my South Node and my SQ, because it's that inspiration that comes in and then the translation of it. And it's something that kind of came and we don't really know it. It's almost like it didn't come from us. It was something that needed to be expressed. So I feel that that's also why you want to kind of make sure that you have a hygiene for that open or undefined head center so that you don't go and think about things that don't matter or things that go in loops, because that's really how your attraction sphere can work in the best possible way and bring in those fourth line loving opening messages and then bring them all the way down into the 2343 channel. And there's one more thing. There was one more thing. I was just looking at your life cycle. So the life cycle that you're going into now, you have been in the cross of the vessel of love. So it's not strange that we hear that in you. For the last 8 years, you were in the cross of the vessel of love, and now you are in the cross of the Maya, which is very much you bringing back that 42 that's already in your chart, and you kind of celebrating the cycles of life. And, I feel you're going around and who is supposed to hear the message and feel your individuality and feel your uniqueness and is ready for your translation. That's the people that you're going to touch. And somehow with that 42 and that new cross that is an overlay in your life from the second Saturn return, there is a reclaiming of your moon. So it's also a very, very good moment for you to look at in what ways could you possibly live out that Jinky 42, the nomad, or the shadow of expectation in a similar way that your mother or your primary caregivers were living it out. And the same thing with the 6th line. How could you maybe live out that 6th line connected to your EQ and the age of 8 to 14? How could there somehow be maybe a resignation or some kind of like the world is not going to catch up? So there is something with that 42.6 that right now is in a transition phase for you and has been for, we could say, the last year already. So that would be the last kind of point of inquiry where I feel like you could have some more fun. Yeah.
It's funny you say about expectation. I've just gone through this whole major exercise where I am now giving up expectations of things and of people, because that creates an unnecessary thought loop in my head. Because if I have expectations, then I'm also trying to control the outcome. And if I try and control the outcome, then I can't just open myself up to whatever is going to happen. So the things that I need to take control of, I take control of. Everything else, it's hard to do. I am leaving my resistance behind and just letting it flow. Whatever is going to happen is going to happen, because I know that I don't know everything. I have a perspective on things. I have a lot of perspectives on a lot of different things, and I don't know everything. And so when I can hear from other people, it gives me a new way to feel into something. Because I these days, I don't like to think into things. I like to feel into them. The whole thing about my heart, it's been like four good years since the pandemic that I really started to open up my heart to people again. And it hurt. It really hurt to start to take all of the barriers down, to take all of the barricades down, and to actually live from love, and to live in a way where I'm not judging other people. That doesn't mean you can walk all over me. I have this general love for humanity, and I have this incredibly deep love for myself that I didn't used to have. And now it feels easier, especially because if you like me, great. If you don't like me, great. If you don't like me, please go and find somebody who you do like, instead of hating on me for whatever reason, because I've had that with people. I'm like, please go find your people. Life is so much better when you find the people who you are meant to be with. And if what I say doesn't resonate, don't listen. I literally don't care. Do not listen. I would prefer you go off somewhere else and be happy and leave me and the people who want to be around me so that I can get on with whatever it is that I need to do. And like all my expectations, because I'm back dating again, all my expectations of people are gone because I'll be disappointed so many times. But what I do have right now that I didn't used to have when I was younger is incredibly high standards for myself. And I'm very much a you do you at the moment. So I thank you both very much for all of the wisdom. I will be re-listening to this over and over and over again. And I'm sure that the epiphanies will come thick and fast over the next few years, not even the next few hours or days. This will take a while for me. This year I am on a journey to really, really understand myself better. And I'm letting myself move more into play and have more experiences and more adventures. And it feels like the right way to go because play has always been difficult for me.
Well, here we all heard that the translator can really speak to us. And I feel like you're speaking from your SQ, the 25, and you're speaking for a new revolution that comes from self-love, the 49, which is your radiance. And I wonder if that goes for all the archetypes, whatever we have in our life's work, can they tolerate the shadow of what's on the other side? Because it's going to take to be able to tolerate whatever is there showing up. Can we still be that expression? Can we still be that role in the world? And I feel like everything that you say is speaking to that. And I just also wanted to show you here, if this was 50 to 58, you were the 25, you were the innocent self-love, and you were able to open your heart up again to people in those last years. And now you're in a 4-6 overlay, and you have that 42 that's brought back, that you already have in your chart. You have the 61 that is brought back, or the overlay. You also have your pearl that is coming back. So a lot of overlay. So those keys that you have in your life cycle now, it's an opportunity for you to kind of bring them back and feel into them, the reclamation of your moon, and bringing in those keys even stronger. The North Node in this phase of your life is the same as your pearl. So your legacy is here to be reinforced and to be expressed. And that is also part of that self-worth, which Taurus is all about. We sometimes forget, but really what Taurus is about, it knows its value, it knows its talents, and it has that inherent self-worth and self-love. So, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was lovely. First one. Yes. I just finished doing Brendy's. We will go into Jen's now. Jen has the 2 as her evolution sphere. And then we'll do Brendy. And Brendy has both the 2 and the 23. So yeah, the 23, a 2, and then both. So it's perfect. So let me get Jen's up. Jen didn't have any specific questions either. How are you guys liking this? Insightful?
Insightful. Yay, that's the programming partner of the 23.
Hee hee. All right, well, we'll do Jen now. Okay. All right. Jen is a 6-2, emotional manifesting generator. She's got the right angle cross of, that's not penetration. Did I not write it right? I didn't write it right. It's not the right angle cross of penetration, that's for sure. So I guess I didn't write this stuff down right. So Spin is incorrect, but these are her charts. So she's gonna be this is illuminated archetype for the feminine. So that's what we're going to be focusing on right now. So you can see that she has the feminine in her evolution sphere. And she also has the 14, which gives her this whole channel. So she's got a defined sacral and a defined G. Let's see what else we can see in here. And then obviously she has the programming partner because her life's work or her conscious sun is 1.6. So when we have an archetype that is activated by the conscious earth, that is going to be one of our greatest challenges in life. And so because Jen is a Scorpio sun, a Scorpio being, the polarity point of Scorpio is Taurus. So the themes of Taurus might be a little bit more difficult for her to access or embrace or live out because Scorpio is so prevalent for her. She does have the 4 and the 49, just like Lisa does as well. Both of them have that in the unconscious side. So there is a bit of that looking for understanding, and probably from that sense of reaction. What are we reacting to? Understanding that will make us less reactive. And when we seek understanding, we can create a revolution or a rebirth within ourselves, because sometimes that reaction is that knee-jerk reaction. And with somebody that has a Scorpio sun, there could be a lot of intensity in their life, a lot of things to be reactive for. So this is Jen. Sorry you couldn't be on, Jen. Belle, is there anywhere you want to orient to first? Speaking of the two and orientation.
So Jen had said that she has the 1 and the 2, of course, in her activation sequence, and she's off the roof now, so she's in the 3rd part of her life, and she has very much been a doer before, and as she is coming off the roof, she is exploring more of that 2nd gene key. So of course, when you have the prime yang as your life's work, and that is the force, we could say, of penetration. So even if this is the cross of defiance that actually wrote the cross of penetration, is actually kind of funny because it has that energy, that the spark, the penetration, the only hexagram in the whole entire I Ching that is made up of only yang or whole masculine lines that pierce, right? And it's the codon ring of fire. So it's also in that sense an element that is a masculine element. And it's heaven in the I Ching. And when we look at the makeup of the body graph and the trajectory of life, we can see that on the conscious side, we have the 18 as the south node. And that is also a doer, we could say. It's here to it's a Virgo gate that it's here to kind of perfect things and see what's wrong. And then it's the 6th line, so it sees it in all the layers. And also when you have a 6th line in your life's work, which is that spark archetype, and then also the nodes, there is a big pressure on you to be a role model. And in today's society, it's very easy then that you go and you do that. And because you have the gift, we could say as well, of orientation, if you with the 1 and the 2, when you feel that, okay, this is the way that it should be done, well, then you can orient with that too. And the lower frequency of that is regimentation. So life can become very rigid. It's a Taurus gate, so it can become in the low frequency very rigid, where you serve that kind of agenda. And in this case, looking at the south node, looking at the masculine archetype of going forward and action. And then we could also look at the moon that has the shadow of intellect. There's so many things there that are actually going towards this a little bit more of a serious and hardworking perspective of life. And then if we go deeper into the gene keys, we see the EQ and we see the pearl being the shadow of seriousness. We see the culture being the father that works and works and works. So wherever we look in this chart, we say, yeah, there can be a lot of that energy forward. So it feels so important that we are illuminating the 2, which is the feminine way shower, that shows us another way of doing it. And she's also extremely connected to the 46, which says yes to the experience and lives it fully from the body, from the embodiment. You have 2 channels that are tantric channels that are bringing the pure life force up to the heart in that tantric circulation, the life force that comes up to the heart and really is tuning into who we truly are in a unique way. So taking that more, the life force that is more general, and bringing it up to who you are. And you have a defined G center with the 1 and the 2. So there is actually consistency of how you're here to marry the prime yin and the prime yang. And the last thing I'm going to say now, and then I'll continue after, is that when we have the 1 and the 2 in our activation sequence, it's a very large span, because it's the edges of the universe somehow. It's the prime yin and the prime yang. So whoever has the 1 and 2 in the activation sequence, it's often a very, very rich life. And in your case, it's coupled with the same 2 gene keys that we had with Lisa, which are the gene keys that are creating a lot of whirlwind, a lot of possibly even reaction and intolerance in the world. And I believe that you have a little bit been possibly too perfect and too much of what was expected for you to really create those waves. And maybe that in this part of your life, it's more about seeing what comes when you allow the feminine, and who you're going to activate, who you're going to possibly trigger. And the same thing as with Lisa, you have a defined emotional center. So you're here to have a rich life, and you're here to feel many different things, many colors, many spices. That's part of your makeup.
I had to change it.
Okay, let's make it bigger again.
Okay, I had to change it. 6-3 emotional generator. Thank you for everything that you shared, Bella. That just, I mean, pulls me and points me into the nodal environment too. I have the 18 as my IQ, the 1858 channel. So whenever this kind of stuff comes up, I always feel that 18. And if we look at the 2 being the receptive, let's feel into all the different things that we can be receptive for like life, other people. When we look at the nodal environment is about your environment, is about the cast and the characters and the set and the setting of the play, of what your life is. And if we have the 18.6 and the 17.6, we're going to get a lot of opinions, we're going to get a lot of judgment, or we're going to get a lot of perspective, and we're going to get a lot of acceptance. We're going to get a lot of that. But if we have a 6 line, we also have a lot of arrogance. And so you might have been around a lot of, people that had their own opinions, people that had their own particular way of being, of acting, and there could be judgment and intolerance, right? Intolerance and reaction to others, to you. And so that is going to color the way that you are brought up, the way that you raise, the way that you behave. And it's also going to create a much more serious life for you. Your Pearl's 46.1, like Bella mentioned, and the EQ's 46.4. So was there an ability for you to play? I know that last time we had Lisa talk, and she was saying that play wasn't always a priority. It wasn't always easy for her to play. And for you, I'm asking, like, is it easy for you to get into play, or is it too serious? Like, do you have true allies or people that you can open up to, that you feel like you are being received as well? Because it doesn't also feel good to be like pushed back. Like, you can tell when you're not receiving the other and they're not receiving you. It feels like a wall is like right in between. So I'm also wondering, with like being around judgment and opinion, being around inadequacy and control, that can really suck the juice out of everything. And then with an undefined ego or will center, it could put a lot of pressure to perfect yourself, to be better, to do better, to compare, to compete, to consistently question your worthiness and your value. And that can also push you into a whole spiral of, I'm not doing enough, I need to exhaust myself, I need to contribute more, I need more here. And yeah, that I mean, I can just feel, I mean, even as I'm tuning into your chart, my body wants to like protect my neck. I almost like feel like my shoulders go to my ears, and it's almost like, where's the next judgment? Where's the next thing? Where is the next thing I need a guard for? And if you're consistently feeling like spears are coming at you because it's Scorpio season, you're getting to get stabbed in the back, right? You're not going to be able to be soft and open and receptive in that Taurus 2.6. So yeah, I guess that's what I wanted to bring in. And we see the 42 again here. There's some similarities with Lisa and Jen as well. So I wonder what kind of expectations you were navigating from the other, because the second line is also going to get called out. It's going to get those projections. It's a projection field. Who did people expect you to be? And how are you recovering from that expectation to really come into that? Well, who do I want to? Who am I, and what kind of world do I want to create? You know, you've had your opportunity as a third line, trial and error. Now you're kind of on the roof. So what kind of world do you want to create? When are you going to come back and interact with the world? When are you going to come back and role model that new way of being? I guess first, it's about regaining whatever intimacy and transparency needs to come back from that SQ, from that inner child, because you're not going to be able to come into that leadership without first accessing that portal. So being really honest with yourself, like, where am I living life from? What am I creating life from? Is it an expectation or projection from somebody else, an opinion, a judgment from somebody else? Or am I really uncovering myself, what I want to create in the world, and how I might want to change the system or the dynamic or the structure of things? So,
yeah. So I will show this. So connected to everything we said, because we kind of have looked at how might she have lived her life, and how might those qualities in your chart have actually had you live a life that was quite serious and pretty much listening to the expectations, or listening to that inner masculine voice that thinks that you should just be very very active and check off the boxes. So the question that comes to me when I look at this wheel is, for whom? So I see this axis in your chart where we have a lot of those activations in the 46, which is the serendipity, which is to be in the right place in the right time. But it's also the shadow of seriousness, and it's also in Libra. And in Libra is for others, right? So who are we doing it for? Because when we look at where you have your North Node, when we look at the Chiron with the hero's journey, when we look at your teacher and what you're here, what you're actually learning from, when you embrace it, when we look at the MC of your soul and your attraction sphere, these are all in Aries, and Aries it is for you. So it is to find your individual fire. And a little bit looking back to, we're speaking about the profile that comes right after. So if we have a 6-3 profile, then we have a 1-3 profile. And the 1-3 is very, very personal. And looking at everything that is in Aries for you, and here on the cusp of Aries with 25, it looks like the direction, the north and the trajectory is to find your own spark, and somehow with your 49 and your 43 share that spark with the world in the 11th house. That is the house of movement and of community. And there is something here where, instead of using the 46 in seriousness and for others and for expectations, you're here to bring it in to your creative inquiry. What is it to be the rainmaker? What is it to be in the right place at the right time? What is it to be tantric? What is it to be so immersed in the experience so it doesn't matter what happens later? That's very much the 46 when it connects to the water goddess, the 29, and they are just completely in that aliveness, in that sensing circuit. So for me, this axis is activated for you, and the trajectory is to find that spark and to express it in the world, and to be creative with some of the things that maybe before weighed you down or made you feel serious in some ways. And there's also a versatility, and this goes back to what we're saying about the 1 and the 2. It's not that you're not going to be the code ring of fire anymore, and you're only going to be the code ring of water, or you're not going to be the masculine, you're only going to be the feminine. No, it's to navigate it all. And when you have your ascendant in Gemini, and you also have Lilith there is a desire from the soul in this lifetime to be able to live its own adventure, to be able to be versatile and play with the different poles, the different polarities. And that's why we can see here with your AC and your Lilith, it's for you to be the heroine of your movie. That's really what the 35 is about. And I was also looking at your life cycles, and you are in the 5-1 cross of endeavor right now, which is very much you with your truth for your endeavors. So very, very much is pointing to that same direction. The inclusion, but even more so, what is my inner spark, my inner fire, and where can I find like-hearted, like-minded people that also have that trajectory, that vision of what's possible. And how can you play maybe a little bit more when it comes to yourself? Maybe if you're in a partnership, if you are in a relationship that's intimate, here can also be more of that exploration of the Virgo Libra cusp, of the priestess, of the senses, of the tantric exploration in a creative way. So those are things that I see for you to tap into as you maybe have a little bit more of the being phase and the exploration phase than just kind of the doing phase that you have been in before.
And if you want to respond or send us an email, or you have questions or anything, you can do that, because you weren't here on the live call to respond. So we are available if you have anything that you need clarification on, or whatnot, or any more sparks that you had that you were inspired by from some of the things that we shared and said. So we're available for that too. Yay. Okay. So we have one more reading, Brendy. And we had said that we were going to do a free reading too. So now would be the opportunity for you all to look in your chart to see if you have the 23 or the 2. And then if you do, I would love to know who of you on here right now have that. And then let us know. You're going to say, I have the 2 in my conscious moon. I have the 23 in my purpose sphere, or however you want to say it. You can either use the planetary terminology, or you can use the gene key sphere if you have that there. And that'll help us see who we have in here, if anybody has that. And then we'll pick one of you guys to look at your charts. That would require you to send us over your chart. Rivka says, I have 23 in my vocation. We're going to look at Brendy's chart, and Brendy has the 23 in her vocation as well. Gail has the 23.5 in her life's work. Happy birthday, transit. I know that, who else was on here? There was one more person on here that also has a birthday this week. I think it was Robin. I know Robin has it, but I don't know if that Robin's on. And then Cecilia.
I feel, this is what I feel, Ashley. I feel like we made more, how do you say? More justice, that's what I want to say, to the 23 as a translator. We didn't necessarily speak completely to the feminine, because the life's work was really the spark. So I feel like maybe to shine a little bit more light on the feminine archetype could be helpful. But that's just...
Yeah, I can feel that too. I don't know where we're gonna go with Brendy. I know that she has it, but that's in her nodal environment, I believe. So it still won't really be deep into that. So yeah. Do you want to pick someone? I already have the chart for Brendy up, but we will need to pick a winner, and then that person will need to email us so that we have some time to grab the chart.
No, I don't want to pick. My Libra 46 is coming in, like, don't make me choose. I don't want to choose.
I'm sorry. Okay. Who do we have? We have Cecilia, SQ. Brian.
Do we have any vocation?
2 in the vocation. Brian has the 23 in his life's work and the 2 in his vocation.
I like that.
Brian wins. Okay, Brian, send us this. Oh, Brian, you're on, but you're like incapacitated with a child, a 15-month-old, right? You're like, oh, I'm going to be on, but I won't be super present. You better be present, because we about to read your chart. So I don't know what you need to do to get the 15-month-old handled, but it's kind of hard. So I understand. So we'll read it, and you'll probably need to come back. We'll read your chart, and you'll probably need to come back to watch it. Oh, I'm here. Wife is here. Meow. Oh, perfect. Great. So she's now got the 15-month-old. Okay. Send us your chart, unlockyourdesign@gmail.com. We're going to do Brendy now. Brendy. I think I have the information on the top right too. Hello. I'm doing.
I believe so. Do you want me to turn the back up to high?
Sure. Thanks.
You said you wanted.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Gigi. Have fun.
We will, as soon as we get there.
Oh yeah, you're late. Okay. This is Brendy. Thank you for spontaneously saying yes to an illuminated design, illuminated archetype reading.
Do you know your ascendant? Just to know where the wheel starts for you? Maybe not.
Yeah, she sent us her Gene Key profile and then human design. Okay, so Brendy is a 5-1. And because she's a 5-1, that makes her a left angle cross. So she's a left angle cross of cycles with the 53, 54, 42, and 32. We have quite a few people that come into our world that have this cross as well. Cross of cycles, cross of penetration. She's a sacral generator, meaning her sacral is defined. She doesn't have a direct connection to the throat, so she's not a manifesting generator. Let's see, she is a 1. She has like a single split. And I think we're missing the 31, the 8, and the 33. So we can see that the 2, which is the feminine, this is the north node on both sides. And the 23 happens to be her vocation. 23.1. So actually, if Lisa and Brendy hung out, there could be a lot of cool stuff to uncover and dissect, because the 23.1 is Lisa's life's work. And since it's Brendy's vocation in the same line, there might be some cool things to uncover together. So first line in the vocation, which is also called the core wound, if we're traveling through the Venus sequence, the first line is the wound of repression. So repression of expression, repression of your knowing, holding back that spontaneous expression. And for fear of what? That depends on your conditioning, that depends on your experience. It also depends on, with that first line, you're investigating how to simplify. So you might feel like you need to push that side down because when it was expressed, it was complicated. And then, I don't know, maybe you got judged or you felt guilty for the way that it expressed. You are a 5-1, so bringing it to the throat is kind of where you want to bring things to. And if you don't have impact, then you're going to feel like, wow, that didn't land. Wow, that wasn't received, because the left angle crosses are not doing it for individual. They're doing it for the other, and it's transpersonal karma. And so, yeah. And I guess also your impact and your expression also depends on if you're listening to the other, what are you taking in? Are you interpreting it in the right way? And like, how are you approaching the conversation? Because timing and approach are super important for you. 23 is also about right timing. If we are going to have impact on the other, it has to be the right timing. Although there is that pressure to express the knowing, like Bella and Lisa said, like, I want to express the knowing. If I know it, I want to know it. But if you feel like you need to say something before it's been fleshed out, then that can create that disturbance, that can create the loss of impact, because you're sharing something you haven't conceptualized yet. You can't bring it down to the throat. You have a really cool channel with the 1762, which is about, seeing things abstractly from more from a visual perspective of like seeing the big picture and then being able to communicate that. So you're not only simplifying, but you can be really precise in the way that you explain things. And so, and that's your EQ sphere, the 62.1. So we've got a lot of first line. So it's going to take a little bit of investigation. So in terms of timing, you have to feel empowered and self-assured and competent and confident in yourself first before you share it. And I know in having a first line IQ and EQ myself, it does take a little bit more time for you to be able to get your grounding, get your footing. And it's important for you to be kind of in charge or in control of the way that you're going to investigate. And any kind of pressure from the outside will maybe shut you down, and then make your versatility be hidden and make your precision be hidden, because the first line is going to be repressed or hidden. And if we feel a lack of self-esteem, we're going to self-sabotage, and then nothing will be shared, and then no impact will be made, and then no reciprocity will be had, and no recognition. You're going to feel misunderstood, they're going to feel misunderstood, and it's just not going to be a fun situation. So yeah, I feel like I brought through everything that I can in this moment. So what would you like to bring in?
I mean, I just think it's so funny how when you do this a lot, you start to have like photographic memory. I'm like, this must be 1985. This is, and I'm looking at everything, and I know, I can see the pearl and the culture in Aquarius, and I can see the core wind in 23 and the 62, the Cancer that's both in, in the Mars and the Sun. So it's just so funny. So I'm just geeking away that I know the date without knowing the date. So sorry, this is probably like my 23 and my 62, like the precision of
like,
translating. I
know
know what date you're born in 1982. Yeah, so. Oh, so crazy. Or not 82, 85, but yeah. So
yeah, you're said.
Yeah, where do I want to start with this? I feel that this is not necessarily an easy chart, because the trajectory for the soul is the second gene key, which is trusting everything. It's trusting even fear. It's trusting even the worst things. It can't choose to not trust, because it has, when we look at the feminine, it has that pillar of open lines. So there's no stop. So it's just complete reception. That's the receptive, right, in the I Ching. And that is your North Node. It is to live a whole life, and instead of becoming cynical, instead of translating everything to simplicity, like fuck everything, it's not worth it. It's to come in to that complete trust. And it's the fourth line, your North Node, on the personality side. So it's like that trusting of the heart. And then when you have it on your design side, is the trusting that is with spirit, right? So it's quite a lot that's asked for you. And at the same time, your core wound and your vocation is to simplify, right? So maybe in this case, in this chart, the simplification is the trust of everything. And how do we do that? When you have an EQ, for example, that is very intellectual and wants to understand everything scientifically, the scientist. And then you have the 13 and the 19 in your pearl sequence that are very, very sensitive, and they can feel everything here and now in all the senses. And then it's the memory bank of everything that's ever been said and sensed in humanity with the 13. And you're going to be able to both hear that in relationships one-on-one with a pearl, and then on a system level in the whole collective with the 6th line in the culture. And then you have a completely open emotional center that filters the emotional aura of humanity. Because if we put all body graphs of every single human being on top of each other, then we're going to have an emotional manifesting generator. So that's the aura of humanity that you are filtering all the time. And it doesn't have a preference in how it's processed. A completely open emotional center, it can become like a pressure room. So especially as a young child, being Cancer, which is very sensitive, and then having the Aquarius sensitive, hear everything, feel everything in your pearl, and then a completely open emotional center. And the other center, where we could say humanity is struggling, is the head center, that you also have completely open, with the shadow of psychosis, the shadow of doubts, and the shadow of confusion. So all the things that you where you filtered from very early age could absolutely have made you quite cynical about life. And then we look at your profile. We say you're 5, we see you're 5'1", and you have the 21 in your SQ. So you could definitely have hardened a lot, because that would have been, as a 5'1" and as that 21, that could have been the only way for your heart, for your being, to be able to walk through the world. And you have quite a lot of definition. So you would kind of just have, braced somehow in that middle pillar, and in your ability to conceptualize, and your ability to see things from a perspective that is logical, 1762. And that's the complete difference from what actually your path in your life is. Everything that 1762 is telling you is that everything has a logical explanation. Everything can be calculated. And instead of that being the conclusion, with the open emotional center, the open head center, and then the second gene key, the feminine, as your north node, and the 23, it's not logical. It's like Lisa. She doesn't even remember what she says. It just comes out because there is some kind of just insight that makes that translation and makes that come out. So for me, with this chart, what I see is that despite of all the sensitivity and the spontaneous, sometimes like urge to brace, you have the first gene key as your south node, which is the shadow, the repressive shadow of numbness. That could be the spontaneous protective response to what your chart is. And instead you're asked to trust everything, to open even more, to not even have one single stop in your whole hexagram structure, right? For that north node. So I know that I'm speaking kind of out there, but this is the out there-ness that the 1 and the 2 will use. They will use everything, being a hamburger of the universe, and be versatile, all that. And at the same time, I'm translating it to something very simple. Even if life is giving you all the things that would make you constrict, embrace, what you're here to do is to continue to refine that sensitivity and that discernment, and to be able to be this nurturing being that trusts everything and that simplifies it to that, basically. And how is that going? How is that going?
Yeah, no, you definitely described my experience, and the way that I have felt it, being very sensitive, and learning that sensitivity is the reason that I'm here, and it's okay to be that way. And so I think that I really liked your description of the second gene key being like water, and just letting everything flow through it, and accepting the experience as it comes along, and that whatever's happening, that's the reason. So not necessarily using the logic to try to find a purpose, but having the purpose be in being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we see in your chart that you have 4 different spheres in the Venus sequence that are first lines. I mean, that is such a strong need for the foundation, for the certainty, for the embrace of that cancer. Like there's a child that so much needed that, but because it's also in the core wound, there is already imprinted on an ancestral level that we don't have that. We don't have that foundation. There is the imprint of the terror that having a whole community or a whole village eradicated, because that's the terror of the core wound of the first line. So part of what you're here too is, as a 5-1, to build that foundation, to create with half of the cross of Maya, we could say, with 32 and the 42. What is it that you wanna? What is it that you're here to create? What is it that you're here to celebrate? Because that is how your inner child is going to start to trust you. She's completely in the middle of all these first lines. So it's not really that she can jump to the EQ or the IQ or the core and say, let me get a little bit of another taste. No, it's all about that safety in the body. And I also have a completely open emotional center. So I know that with that completely open emotional center and also an open ego, it can be difficult to feel emotionally safe in this world. You might actually even feel physically safe with a spleen that's very defined, but emotionally, in the frequency of the collective, you might not feel completely safe, or at least you might feel quite a lot of unease because there is so much that you're filtering.
Yeah, that absolutely resonates. I'm actually autistic, and emotions and understanding collective dynamic is very difficult for me. It feels like a trap. It feels like a trick. Like I should be expected to understand emotional and social dynamics, and I don't. And the feeling does come up in my body where I get very overwhelmed, and yeah, it's hard to explain, but I think that the way that you're explaining it, that makes sense.
I'll say one last thing and then see if Ashley has something. I feel that with what you're saying now, it's important that you make friends, and if you're not that into astrology, that you find the Taurus archetype, because we have in the zodiac season of Taurus, of course, we have the second gene key, but we also have your moon, and you have a Taurus moon, and the moon is what's going to nurture you. So when you were a child and maybe didn't have that safety, and there were confusing things that that you're sensing, that you're feeling, then really what's going to nurture you is that those Taurus qualities that are self-love and self-worth, and also knowing what's of value for you, because that can be with a 5-1-2, you're here to be a leader, but I would definitely go into more and more what's of value. That's where also what we are kind of looking at with a collective North Node for the last year, like what's of value for each one of us is in the personal signs of Aries and of Taurus. So it feels important that you go back to the basics of what is Taurus. It's earth, it's feminine, it's nurturing, it's the springtime, it's what's of value for me. How do I love myself? How do I simplify so that I have that foundation so that I can walk forward on the stable grass? That seems to be what can really help you, and also make that part of you, the inner child, that still is not really sure if she's going to let you flourish and become that leader that you are. But she might still kind of pull on you because she doesn't feel completely safe in the SQ. So going back to the SQ and connecting that with the Taurus quality and give that to the inner child, being the feminine with her so that she can kind of stop bracing and controlling and not feeling completely safe.
Thank you. Thank you for choosing this design or choosing this expression in this life. And I know I mentioned you had the 62, and I don't think that the label autism really is doing anybody any justice. It's great for us to be able to name it, but I think it's so misunderstood that we're still trying to figure out what it all means. And I think personally, for me, it just means a very sensitive person. If you're filtering so much stuff, everything's coming in at once, you're already hypersensitive with the 19 and the 13, like Bella mentioned before, everything could be complicated. And you're a generator. You're not a manifesting generator. You're not here to take in all these things at once. What's one thing you can focus on? If you use your breath as your resource and you pull back into yourself and be like, all right, let's focus on one thing. Let's focus on this, because we're throwing a lot of stuff at you. This can be even complicated. You can be even overwhelmed by all of this. If you just focus on simplifying, you are in control of you 100% all the time, right? You get to control the way that you approach life, the way that you respond to things. But it's hard when you're consistently being flooded by everything and everyone around you, especially in the emotional realm. That's even more upsetting or uncomfortable, because you have to try to translate that realm when, like Michael said in the chat, there's no way for you to even have a consistent filter for it. There's no filter. There's no gate that you're like processing the emotional realm through. It's completely open. There's no gate that you're processing all these ideas and inspiration and psychosis. And like Bella was saying, all that stuff it's coming in. There's no way of consistently filtering it, but you can create structures and systems to be able to start to translate and understand for yourself, because the translation is for you. It's a first line. You are here to take in, take a breath, take a pause, get into that silent space, because the addiction is to consistently consume, to consistently take in, to consistently try to be okay with all the overstimulation that's here in this world. Yeah, people that come in as having autism during this time, they're here to start to become more and more versatile with the overstimulation that we have. Like, yeah, plop someone in that's super sensitive into this world, they're going to be super overwhelmed. They're either going to need to cover their ears, do something. We adapt behaviors to cope with everything that's flooding us. So there's a lot that people can learn from you, and you are here to learn because you're the cross of cycles. So you're here to have many different experiences where over time you become versatile and master of something, because you are consistently being initiated. And it does feel very uncomfortable to feel it all. The 53 is expansion. The 53 is superabundance. The 53 is about expanding more and more and more and more. And if we take in more without mastering what we've already taken in, we're going to feel completely overwhelmed. So I think with so many first lines, the way that you can create safety, security, and structure for yourself is to slow down and like take a bite first and digest that, and then take the next bite. It's like you need to slow down the way that you're taking in, because you can take in a lot. So if there is any way for you to isolate something, go in and digest it in your own time, and then come back and be like, okay, this is what I deduced from this. You may not have it in the moment. And so everybody around you is going to need to be more patient with the way that you're processing things, and to know that you'll come back when you can come back, but you can always take a time out to be like, I need to go into my aloneness. This is a little bit too much right now. I need to pause the video. I need to pause the conversation. And
yeah.
I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys are ready. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah. One of the things that has been really helpful is, just bringing everything back to the present moment and what is happening in this moment right now, and then the next moment. And I do think that when I've been able to focus on that and in relating to other people, there's so many things that people just do and take for granted that they don't actually understand. And I think that that's where the simplicity comes in, because when I can bring things back to the present moment, it allows people to realize all of the complexity that they just do, that they just take for granted, all of the things that they really aren't even thinking about. And it allows me to be able to relate, first of all, but then it also allows people to just kind of bring things back to the basics, so that they can see all of the things that they maybe are taking for granted in the way that they're able to relate.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And also, I think that the way that you process, the way that you think is a lot different than the majority of people. And so in order to articulate and explain your knowing, I think probably the best way is to speak it out, is to have that place where you can just bring it to the voice and be able to observe yourself too, because that could be really helpful for you. And I know that Lisa has the 4323 channel as well. And I think the way that you guys think is very different. And so it's going to take time to figure out your process, since the way that they teach things in school is not according to your design. It's a little bit different. So it may be a challenge to even try to learn in the same way other people learn, because you're different, because you're taking in different kind of stimuli, different kind of information.
Yeah, that's 100%. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on and booking and being here so that we can also interact with you. Do you feel, the last question I want to ask you is, do you feel empowered in your life? Do you feel empowered?
Yes, I do now. I've drastically changed my life so that I am not in a position of being overstimulated all the time. Like, I work for myself now, and I only interact with people one-on-one, and I'm not, like, I've given myself an opportunity to be in a place that it is simple. Like, I've really simplified my life so that I'm not overwhelmed. And I think in the last 5 years that has happened. And yeah, it allows me to be able to actually engage more rather than defending myself all the time just to survive.
Yay. Well, I'm happy for you, and thank you so much for sharing your chart and yourself with us. I appreciate it. Okay. Well, we have Brian. I'll pull up his chart. Well, did you want to ask him any questions while I bring these up? Because I wasn't able to bring anything up while we were sharing the screen.
Yeah, what do we need to know, Brian? You can we are gonna allow you to talk, and we're gonna make you, if you want to say something, but you can also like just write. Is there anything right now that in your life that is alive, or an issue, or yeah, just like a focus, or anything that we should know about you? You can speak or write.
Hi. Um, hmm. So I feel like I'm in a big transition period. Um, the two has been incredibly present with me over the past few weeks. The octopus, there's a lot that's been popping up everywhere. Ever since Michael reached out to me actually when he moved here, which is very cool. So where I'm at though right now is I'm kind of like uh, trying to land on the next step for like how I can support my family. I have two small kids, and uh, I'm a business owner, massage therapist, and like a wellness kind of coach is where I'm like kind of moving into, it feels like. I teach like a mindfulness and meditation course up at Cornell University for a PE credit, and I've been feeling like I'm pulled to do that more with like the general public instead of just uh, college kids that are. But it's been very cool like kind of connecting with them all and helping them just be more mindful of their bodies and of how they spend their time. Um, so yeah, I guess that's why I'm here, is just to kind of hear what you guys see and see if I get any glimmers in that moment. So thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you. I see that you are a 4/6, and that 23 is in your life's work. So that means it's your birthday soon. So happy birthday, transit. So many of you all here with birthdays in this transit, these translators coming here on Earth to simplify for us or make things more complicated. I don't think there's any judgment either way. We can simplify by making things complicated too. And the insight. So I'm seeing the 23 here and the 43 on the conscious side. And then we have the 2, which you were speaking of, and that is your vocation or your core wound. So the feminine 2.1, and the first line, like we spoke about previously, is the wound of repression. So I could assume and understand that being in a male body could make it difficult to identify with the feminine or receptive aspect of you, because generally men are more masculine anyways and penetrative. I'm also seeing that you have the programming partner in your Pluto. So that could also be a challenge as well. So maybe in a way, balancing those poles of the masculine and feminine dynamic. So we've got your Pluto is in Scorpio, because one is a Scorpio gate. And so it likes to be there, but the entropy that you must feel or dislocation that you feel with the 2 can be pretty uncomfortable or destabilizing. And then waiting and waiting and waiting for the insight to drop in to be like, okay, where are we orienting to next? What are we going to create next? What are we doing next? And I'm sure your 35 is probably hungry for those new experiences as well. Being in your not Saturn, your Jupiter, it's going to expand or amplify that. And so really digging into the depth and the details of things as well. I can see why you and Michael are hanging out as well. Like, cool that the universe brought you two together. He's got the 35 as well. So you guys can share in those yum opportunities to learn new things, have new adventures, live a mythic life. And I also see that you have the 1949 channel. So sensitivity, approach, revolution. We've seen that 49 and the 4, which is your design side, the earth and the sun. So I guess you seek understanding and you create revolution within yourself, and you're going to start to simplify the complexity. So I guess meditation is a wonderful, perfect way. Mindfulness is a great way to slow things down, to be able to digest what you're taking in and understand, so that you can awaken something new in you. Yeah. Welcome to Unlock Your Design. Welcome to the circus. I don't know why I said that, but welcome to the circus.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I love when we do this with the same cross. And we had before Lisa, which is the most personal individual profile of all, a 1-3. And now we have the only profile that is made up only of transpersonal line, which is the 4-6. So we have completely different perspectives, also in the fact that Lisa was a generator, and she's all about getting to know kind of why am I here and what is it to be human. And here we have a projector aura, which is very much focused on the other. So very transpersonal. And you come in and you say, you know, your kids, and even before, I think in the other call that you were in that transpersonal way with somebody else, focusing on somebody else as well, which is just kind of telling and a little bit funny when we look at this. So here we're going to have much more of an overview in the perspective of that revolution. There is also something in this chart, something with you, Brian, where you stand for something. Your radiance on the top of the red list, so the 49.6, your radiance, your the sun of your soul, we could say, is that revolutionary, and it's here to ground a revolution on all levels, because it's a 6 line. So it's going to have more of an overview and more of an aspect of role modeling. So maybe in some sense, your 23 doesn't seem as spontaneous. And I actually think I want the other one. Yes. There is something interesting here with spontaneity for you, because you have a completely open splenic center. And I don't see that very often. There's usually at least some hanging gaze, but you have a completely open spleen. And then you have that 23, 43, that's very spontaneous. And then that is a split in your chart as well, where you have your ajna, your throat, and your G center very powerfully together, with a throat that has all different kinds of ways of expressing, individual ways, feeling into the collective, feeling into what's logical, feeling into what's abstract, feeling into spontaneity and creativity, like so many ways of expressing is connected. And at the same time, you have kind of the pressure of the emotions and the pressure of the like adrenaline. And we know for somebody with a completely open spleen that it's very important to be careful with spontaneity. So and then also we can see that you're born, you know, in the late 80s. So there is all these different kinds of fuels in Capricorn, in the root center. They're going to kind of push you, and they are also quite demanding. So they can be quite self-critical, and they want you to do things a certain way. So there's almost a split between how you're supposed to do things, and then this kind of spontaneous way that wants to like express in the world completely. So if we were speaking about the other chart before that had a triple split, I see almost a little bit more of kind of a paradox in this chart. So going back to human design basics, we say that inner authority is very, very important, and you are an emotional authority. So you're actually here to be a little bit of a diva. You are a projector. You're not here to work all the time. And you're here to allow your emotions to be a guiding wisdom, but not in the moment, like over time, where you're there and are allowed to deeply feel into what's there and waiting for emotional clarity, waiting for the waters to kind of calm down. So that could be a little bit of a paradox to Capricorn, that wants everything to be clear and wants everything to be a certain way and wants the deadline to be, want you to be before the deadline. I would say that is a voice that's not your true voice. You're not here to hurry. You're not here to just do it because your mind thinks that you're here to do it. You're here to find a very unique expression that in some way is showing or bridging over to the future and what we are here for. And I feel like there is something that, it's when you combine the nature of you being an emotional projector that sees deeply, that pierces deeply in what you see, and that you're able to combine that with who you truly are in the G and your expression and how you see things. That's when the wholeness of you are going to come out. And I see that your moon is at 29. So there is a very, very deep commitment, but it's important that you not just identify with anything and you're like, oh, I'm going to be the warrior for this. No, that is not what your design says. It's something that comes from deep inside with you anchoring into this world through spirit. And that's how your radiance, that's how your revolution is going to start to speak through you. I don't know if that was kind of too out there, but I feel like a 4-6 can kind of get that perspective. So yeah, I think I'm going to stop there for a little while.
No, it didn't seem too out there at all. Very, lots of resonance.
And we can see that you're here to integrate intimacy into freedom. If we look at what we said before, the trajectory that we were saying, going from one thing to another, you have the 59 as your south node. So there is an integration of relating is going to be very important in your life. The 29, your moon, and the 59, your south node, which are both there, and they're just there. They cannot not be there. They are in the coding ring of union. So relating is something very important. You have a 4th line in your life's work. You're completely transpersonal profile. You have an open sacral center. So you're going to filter people's life force. So relating is one of those amazing things that you're committing to. And even like you coming in, speaking about your children, I feel that's important, but relating not as a chain or a cage or a place where you can't be yourself and you have to kind of not be in transparency or intimacy. No, like the 59 the only way that the 59 can come to the 55 is when it starts to work in the higher frequency. So from the intimacy, from being the playmate in that 59, from knowing when enough is enough for you, from knowing what is true transparency, what is true relating, that's how your trajectory is to show us freedom, which is the North Node. And that happens both in the 2nd line of relating one-on-one in partnership, and also on the soul side in a way more transpersonal sense. It's kind of spirit feeling into the more human relating and the freedom of spirit.
Yeah. So much, and so much is bubbling up too. Just thinking about the 2 and the dislocation and that too. It's like I'm like 2.5 months into like lessening the amount of weed that I take in, marijuana, and I feel like that's like the 2 coming through me right now and like helping, or like that's like my theme right now, is like moving from the dislocation into the orientation. And also finding the freedom there too. Yeah.
And just to say to like here, that has been a way for you to navigate your chart, because when you have all that Capricorn and you have all that pressure in your root, it's in the split in your chart, I believe that and the completely open spleen and the open sacral, that has been a way to make life a little bit more mellow. Like that has been a way to navigate for you. And now when the 2 comes in the higher frequencies, but trust everything. Trust even that it feels like that your life is not that that it's not that easy to navigate, because I am here with a gift of orientation, and we will orient together through this. So it just feels like when the 2 comes in, you're ready to not use the crutches that are not true nurturing, because also the second gene key is Taurus. It wants true nurturing. It wants quality. It doesn't want just something that is a crutch.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, there's been a lot of synchronicities all around today too. My first massage today, my client said to pick whatever music I wanted to, and he's like an older gentleman, so I went with the Moody Blues album that my dad used to really enjoy called Days of Future Past, and there was just so much speaking to me with that song or that whole album, and yeah.
One question I would just kind of leave you with is the 8, which is your attraction sphere. So the chemistry that you're going to be there with your clients. Of course, you're also doing it with open spleen and open sacral. So being able to feel in a healer way to the people that you work with. So the 8 is both your culture sphere, your protocol, what you do on an everyday basis, and the attraction, the chemistry when you connect with others. And I feel, because that's also on the cusp of Taurus, so I feel like it's important for you to understand the nature of contribution, because as a projector, you don't have unlimited energy. So to feel into like, yes, you're here to contribute. That's what you're doing by just being and existing and translating your genius into the world. It's already natural. Like the contribution is already natural. And I feel like part of the question is for you to set up, as you're taking out some of these crutches and you start to navigate more from truth and more in freedom, it is to see that contribution, see the win-win, see the recognition, which is so important to be valued for a projector. So yes, we know you're bringing contribution, but what is the reciprocity in each and every interaction for you? And maybe even start to say, if it isn't reciprocity, then I don't need to continue. Because when you have an open spleen, it's to check every single month, whatever lingers in your life, a job, a relationship, a situation, you check with yourself, is it good for me physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually? And if it's a no in any of those, it needs to go out, because the open spleen cannot really gauge how bad something is for you and how long it can go on before it becomes like really detrimental. So I would really have that as an ally with me as you move forward and you start to include even more healthy navigation. Like, what's the contribution I'm giving, and where is the reciprocity in this, and is this something that continues to spark the creativity that you have in the world, or is it depleting you in some way?
Thank you.
All right, I think we ran out of time here, but I really appreciate you being here and letting us dig into your chart, and everybody else that's here as well. I'm glad you joined us for this first episode, and I think that, Bella, we probably will only ever have time for 3 or potentially 4, but if we can be more succinct, then maybe we can have more people. But I think 2 paid ones.
I think that today we did what we did, and I think that Lisa showed the way, because I'm on my Libra, like I could not give a lot of time to one reading and then suddenly give much less time to other readings. So I think that you set the stage, which was amazing, and I think that Ashley and I are going to decide from now on if we have a timer or something, and then we kind of move on after like a little bit of margin. But I mean, this is beautiful. So I would love to continue to actually have the people on, and it feels it feels way more, speaking about reciprocity, it feels kind of way more complete when you get to be in interaction with the other. Because for Jen, we don't know. Like, she might be like, I have no idea. Is this me? I don't think she would. But, you know, it's always, it kind of energetically, it feels good to be able to feel the person together with a chart, because that just creates more wholeness and understanding.
Absolutely. I don't think that we could shorten. I think that we, like you said, we needed what we needed. We'll probably adapt, and so we'll have less spots open so that we do have an opportunity to connect, especially if the person is on. It's easier to just do the reading if there's no interaction, but as soon as there's interaction, you can't stop it. So it's almost like an actual, you know, two-on-one type reading. So that's always an amazing like portal of potential there. So we'll see what we're going to do for the next one as well, because the next one that's coming up, I don't know.
That must be the 8, right? The 8 and the 20.
Let's see. We've got the 8 and the 20. We might have.
Right, you can come back and continue the exploration with us.
Right.
You have those too. At least the 8. Yeah.
And happy birthday to everybody that is in the transit of the 23. So grateful that you're born, and I'm glad that you are translating for us all, non-translators. Thank you for simplifying. Thank you for digging into the complex. Thank you for being open to dive into the complex for the sake of simplifying. Somebody's got to do it. Somebody's got to enter the complex and the chaotic in order to, what's it called? Distill, like refine. Fine. Yeah. Thank you all. It's a pleasure.
Yeah. See you
We'll see
soon.
you next time.
If you're in the 23 experience, we'll see you very, very soon this week. And
We'll
if you're
see you
not,
tomorrow.
yeah.